Hi, I'm Dr. Robert Cohen. Today I'm going to talk to you about how you can do great on the new ACT essay. The ACT essay is changing. The new form, they call it the Enhanced Writing Test. It's just a new essay, and it debuts September 2015. That's the first time that you'll see this new essay. It's pretty different from the old essay. I'd encourage you all to check it out. You can find it on the ACT's website. You can find a sample prompt and sample responses, and I link to it on my blog article on the SAT ACT blog, my article, How to Write the New ACT Essay. So check out those prompts and essays. Basically what they do, they give you a prompt where they talk about some common issue. In one of them, it's about balancing freedom with public health, basically. And they talk about it, and then they want you to present your own argument or your own take on the issue. And they present three perspectives. This is what's new. There's perspective A, B, and C, and you have to comment and engage with those three perspectives as you're making your own argument, your own response to the topic. Here's what you want to do. First, read the prompt, read the whole thing, and read all three perspectives. Take a couple of minutes to think about the topic, the perspectives, and to come up with your own perspective or argument about this particular issue. Now, usually about one or two of the prompts will kind of take one side of an issue, and the other prompts will take the other side of the issue, more or less. So your argument is going to be taking usually one side of a particular issue, but you want to make sure that your argument doesn't just restate one of the perspectives. It may kind of align with one of the perspectives, but you want to come up with your own argument and your own reasons for your argument, and a really unique take on the issue. Like I said, leave a few minutes to come up with your argument and to plan the structure of your essay, and then start writing. When you're done, leave a couple minutes at the end, set aside a few minutes to review everything, to make sure that, to correct any minor grammatical mistakes, that type of thing. In general, you want to structure your essay, you want to start with an intro paragraph that basically states your argument, your take on this issue, and you can briefly mention how you're going to support your argument, what you believe and why, basically. And that's pretty short. Then you're going to have 2 to 3 paragraphs where you really flesh out your argument and you argue your point. So you're going to argue why your take is right, and you're going to use specific, detailed examples. They really like specific, detailed examples that you really flesh out and that really address and support well your particular argument. Your argument's kind of going to be in 2 parts. There's the part that is going to put forward your idea, and that's going to more or less agree with 1 or 2 of the perspectives. Then there's the part of your argument where you address the contrary perspectives, the ones you don't agree with, and you say why they're wrong. You say, well, maybe they have a good point that, such and such, can occur, but what they're missing, what they're not seeing is the fact that X, Y, and Z, and thus I'm right, basically. So, if you have 2 or 3 paragraphs, about half of that, half or 2/3 will be you saying why your argument is right. The other half or third is you saying why the other arguments are wrong. After you write those 2 or 3 body paragraphs that argue the thesis, you want to end with just a short concluding paragraph that really succinctly sums up your main argument, your main point, and the 1 or 2 examples that successfully argued for that point. One cool thing to do in the final paragraph is to use a hypothetical sentence. Stylistically, it looks really good. You could close by saying, if something happened, then, clearly the results would be disastrous, or the results would be really good. So you use this if-then sentence structure to come up with a catchy sentence that you use in support of your argument. When you're addressing counter-arguments, address any counter-arguments that appear in the perspectives, but also address counter-arguments that you think of. So you want to address all the perspectives, but when you're thinking about counter-arguments, you're not limited to those perspectives. And in general, make sure not to leave any perspectives out. As you're making your argument, you want to mention all three perspectives, basically saying that, perspective one basically agrees with what I'm saying because perspective one says this. Perspective two, on the other hand, says this thing that disagrees with me, but perspective two is really wrong because X, Y, and Z. So make sure that as you're making your own argument, you address every one of the three perspectives. Let's talk about your examples. Again, you want them to be really detailed. So like proper names, dates. You can fudge details a little bit. They're not grading you on the validity of what you're writing, just your argument. So make it specific and really work up a detail. Use a couple of sentences to talk about that detail in depth and how it really reinforces your argument. When you use examples and details, though, be careful to make sure that each example serves a different point or a different, part of your argument. You don't want to use two separate examples to say the exact same thing. So all your examples will be arguing for the same overarching thesis, basically, but they should all do something a little bit different. Using advanced vocabulary looks really good, so try and put in some advanced words in your essay, but just make sure that you're using them correctly. When in doubt, it's better to avoid them. You also want to vary your sentence structure, so make sure each sentence and paragraph isn't starting with the same exact word, and make sure that they don't all have the same underlying grammatical structure. You want to mix things up a bit. A good way to do this is to throw in a rhetorical question. Make sure that each paragraph starts with really strong transitions. So you want each new paragraph to in some way reference what comes before it and set up what comes after it. Always have those smooth transitions in place. Also, you want to use the active voice whenever possible. So you want to say, he ate the apple, and not the apple was eaten. Avoid using I, or the first person. The writing sounds more formal and academic if you leave out the first person. Also avoid really political or religious arguments. The grader is supposed to be objective, but after all, they are a human being with political or religious views, so it's generally best not to go there if it's going to be really political or religious. If you found this video helpful, please like it, share it, or subscribe to the channel, all of which will help me reach more people looking for this type of information. Thanks.